Welcome to Unlocking the Caged Heart, brought to you by Suicide Awareness Ministries. Join us on a transformative journey as we explore the hidden and uncovered truths. Together, we'll discover the story of the voice behind the man, his struggles, triumphs, and the unlocking of his heart. Tune in every third Saturday for Unlocking the Caged Heart, featuring our special guest, Jonathan Corbett, also known as JB. Let's unlock the heart, one story at a time.
So we're going to start with Unlocking the Caged Heart podcast, and this is going to be, the topic is going to be past, present, and future of a man. And this is going to be presented by Suicide Awareness Ministries, and our guest today is Jonathan Corbett, also known as JB. So without further ado, I think it's best that we just jump right into the topic. I think the topic kind of speaks for itself when we're talking about the past, the present, and the future of a man. But what man are we talking about? You know, how do we describe the man? And then when you look at the topic itself or the title itself, Unlocking the Caged Heart, what's inside of a heart? How did the things that are inside of this heart, how did it become caged? You know, so there's a lot of questions that you ponder as we get into this podcast. But without further ado, let's just jump right into the first question. The first question that I have for Jonathan is, Jonathan, tell me a little bit about yourself. Because you are the man that we're talking about on today. Although we're going to describe plenty of men, you're the man of today. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Me?
Yep.
I'm a 30-year-old black man born in America. And up until about maybe 10 years ago, I never felt or knew what a man really was, right? Like, it's all these things. You got all these, everybody will tell you a different perspective of what a man is, right? But he's just somebody who cares for his family, or protects his family, or provides for his family, or is he the person who defends his family? Each of these elements of manhood, but like what specifically is a man or what was a man? You know, like I had to grow into that, and I had to grow with other people's assumptions of what a man was, and grow into what I believe the man should be. You know, like, because some things in our culture hold you back from being the man you should be, but some of those things are also needed too. So me becoming a man was accumulation of all the events that happened in my life and the perspective it took from being older to look down and see the childish things that I've overcome.
All right. And so this is more of your response to me is very philosophical. And so I want to just break it down just for our viewers just a little bit more. How did you become the person you are today?
I became the person I am today through the traumatic and beneficial events that took place in my life. That's the best way I could sum it up in a short story.
Okay. And then
I'm pretty sure as people get to know me, they'll get to hear all those little details that embody that statement.
Okay. So due to some of the things that you experienced, and is it fair to say the things that you've been through in your life, those little things, those big things, and whether big or small, they have made you the person you are today?
Yes, very much so.
What key characteristics or attributes define you? Like, what can you tell me if you had to, throw out a couple attributes or characteristics that define you?
Strong, I'm intelligent, I'm protective, I'm nurturing, I'm caring. I'm a lot of things, but to others, they may see a different side. They may see me as aggressive, negative, dark. They may see me as rebellious, where I see myself as revolutionary. There's a lot of things that characterize me. I don't think it can all be summed up because I'm so diverse in who I am. Like, I don't necessarily look forward to society's viewpoints of what I should be, and I look at what makes me feel okay with life.
Okay. And with that, I heard you say strong. What makes you strong to you? You know what I mean? Like for me, what makes me strong may be different from you. It may not be strength for me, but it may be my intelligence, my wits. What makes you strong?
What makes me strong I believe, is to mix my emotions with my intelligence and to pursue my goals.
Okay.
Because I don't feel like enough of us identify with the emotional side of us and realize that if it wasn't for those emotions, we wouldn't feel so strong or passionately about the things we do in life.
Say that last part again because it kind of cut off a little bit.
That a lot of us we don't identify with the emotional side of us and realize that that emotion brings the passion towards the goals that we pursue in this life.
All right. And I mean, so you think a lot of people just don't connect to it? You know, they're separate in their day to day life as far as making that connection of why they are the way that they are.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the man I am, like that's what makes the man I am. Like a lot of times we see our women as strong because women are strong, but those women are able to deal with their emotions and let them out and vent to each other, and it puts them in a better place to deal with the day to day problems of what goes on because they have this emotional outlet. But the men deny it so much that it becomes a thing that breaks them down. So when I think about what made me strong or makes me strong, I do identify with that, mixing that emotion with that intelligence.
Okay. And I like to, and one of the things I like to do before we jump into the body of the message today, do you have any special interests or passions? And if so, just kind of tell me a little bit about those.
Special interest and passion.
Yeah.
The two biggest ones is history and sociology.
Why history and why sociology? It seems like those would be like one of those brain teasers for me. Like there's so much with history, right? And there's so much with sociology, just learning folks, in general, that those are brain teasers for me. So for you, why history and why sociology?
Well, first off, one of the first things they do when they teach you in school is about this great country of ours, right? God bless America, all this, like they teach you all these things. They want it's this build up of this idea, right? Of the narrative of whoever wrote it, right? But that's the history. All these events happen, but as I got older, I heard things about our culture. I heard black people don't survive to be 18, they're illiterate, and all these things. Like I only heard good things about their side and negative things about my side. So as I got older and I went back and I looked through history, I found the good things and I found out bad and terrible things that happened to us. Like, but even that, like, it was a beauty in it to me because I was learning about me, I was learning about us, and I was learning about all the great things that happened with us and the great things we did. So I fell in love with history, and I'm able to read it objectively and from a non-biased viewpoint. It doesn't hurt me no more to understand where I came from. It helped me better understand where I was going. Sociology, on the other hand, sociology taught me the study of society from the individual all the way to the group. And with that, I was able to take my own perspective of how I grew up and look at it in different forms and see how to better it or better evolve it. And then we had great giants in that field. We had W.E. Du Bois in that field who, was a literary giant, and he had these ideas, and I seen the things they were pushing for, and it was beautiful to me, and I don't think that should ever stop, and I don't think that should ever be stopped. So they were inspiration to me. I found mentors that were already going out of this life already in those two subjects that I love, so they helped me define a clear path of what I wanted out of life.
All right. I mean, you definitely described why history and sociology. I guess going right into the second question here, which is part of reflecting on the past, has a lot to do with shaping your identity. What significant experiences from your past have shaped who you are today?
I'll give you two, and I'll give you two that accumulated a lot of my own character, right? And I give you both lessons from my mother, right? That beautiful woman. One lesson she gave me was this. I remember she bought this this fake cash register as I was a kid. I don't know how old I must have been, probably like 5 or 6 somewhere around the time, right? This money, and she taught me what money was from the penny, quarter, nickel, dollar, all this $5. And once she kept on playing with the money with me until I knew exactly what it was, when she felt I was ready, she said, "Here, go to the store, and you better come back with the exact amount, right?" And as nervous as I was, I walked to this store, and I knew she knew like the guy probably wouldn't trick me anyways, but it wasn't about him; it was about me. Like, and it was a double lesson in it because what if I would have took something? Like she would have knew, like so it was teaching me integrity at the same time. But when I got there and I gave that man the money and he gave me it back, and I counted it, I knew it was right, but I double checked it. I looked at him when I was counting, like, give me this. I ain't getting in trouble for you, But that was a part of my building. That was a part of my growth. Like that event was so significant because my mom was teaching me. She taught me something, and then she made me physically apply it. And I don't think enough people do that with their life nowadays. They don't learn something and then apply it. They learn something about it and they feel too, like out of tune with it to pursue it. They don't want to fail at something anymore. But moving on to the second lesson. The second lesson she taught me was this that stuck with me. She said, "Son, don't ever start anything, but always be able to finish it." And at the time she was talking about trouble, but the child me took that to mean anything, like don't start no trouble with nobody, but if a bully come, start something with you solve it, you figure it out, you stand up for who you are, because in our community, to not stand up to a challenge and to let it overcome you might be the end of you. And that I bring up those two events because they were significant in my growth. One was about finances, like in the betterment of my future, and the other one was the survival that I would live every day as a black man. So both of those events stuck with me, and that's why I speak about them.
So it sounds like those are some good lessons that you've taken that has really shaped who you become. And so I'm sure that even with that, you are applying those to your day to day, even now, at your current state and where you currently are. You're applying those life lessons that you learned as a child. How old do you think you were when you first learned that lesson?
When I first learned both of those lessons,
Yep.
I couldn't have been more than 6.
Wow. That's interesting, man. So it sounds like, and this is something I've been talking to with some other folks over the past week here, that children are really impressionable and they really pick up things at an early age. And whether we know it or not, despite what our circumstances is and what we're going through and the chaos and confusion that may be in the household, those children are learning exactly how to respond themselves.
Yeah, those children like that. Those two things always really stood out to me. But it even helps because now, like, I am an applicant.
You have 1 minute remaining.
I learned that as an adult, like, I'm applicable. Like, you show me something, like, I'll understand it and I'll start to do it. But if you do it with me, I'll never forget it. So I try to take those experiences and start to work on them and build them because that's the only way I could build my expertise in whatever field that may be. And that's why other people who they feel like can't learn something, like I go and learn with them the way that I learned. And most of those people never lose those lessons. So in that I realized my mom was a great teacher. She may have not been able to teach me everything, but she teach me what I needed to know for today. But people who taught her might not have taught her everything, but they taught her what they needed for now, But now I feel like it's time for me to teach people the things that they need in the future. Stop living for the present and start living for the future.
What is your perspective on how that incident has shaped you, who you have become today? What if you didn't go through that?
You have to say that again. On which side of it, like the experiences, good and bad, that I went through, in general, as a whole, or those experiences I explained as a child?
Yeah, so before when we left off at, you were talking about your experiences. You're talking about a couple different incidents, especially the ones with mom, and but what if you didn't go through those experiences? What if you didn't go through, see some of the things that you seen when you were younger? What if some of those things didn't help build who you are, build your character? What if you didn't go through those things? what?
I would have dealt. I would have dealt with life way differently, right? Like to hear, like don't start nothing, but always be able to finish. You always see kids; they always start everything, right? Like they pick and prod and bully each other and stuff like that. And in that moment, she was telling me like, don't be a bully, but don't run from one. Like, and that situation played out over and over and over again in my life as challenges came up through childhood where you would see just normal interactions fight to where you would see the more extreme things where somebody was really trying to harm you, but in the culture again, like the people who do run for those people become victimized. They continue to be victimized, like, and the people who stand up for themselves, like, it stops. It stops because they realize, like, I can't just do this to this person and get away with it, to where I've seen, as I've probably mentioned to you before, like, people pull out guns on two of my brothers and they still trying to fight them while they got the gun out. Like, put the gun down or we can fight. And I'm thinking of as a kid, like, this is kind of crazy. But they made it through that incident, like, God bless them that they did. They could have been gone, but at the end of the day, like even those experiences shaped me to never run from anything, never surrender to anyone. Like, and I think of that in the sense of God, like only surrender to God. Like another man can only do what you allow him to do to you.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe that's not an entire positive thing because it relates to like a political corruptness or tyranny or police doing something they not supposed to. I'm gonna stand up. Like I'm not gonna just lay down and let anything happen to me because of that one lesson I was taught in life. Not to let anybody just do anything they could feel they could do to me just because of who they are.
So do you think that that type of attitude, that type of response, and even though it was conditioned, it was learned, do you think that can end up with bad consequences as well?
Yes, because I don't think she intended it to go as far as it did, right? Because she's a woman, she's giving me the best womanly advice she could get to a child, right? I'm pretty sure that would have modified over the years, but what it meant to me throughout my manhood, like it became, I won't lie, at times it became a toxic thing, but that was my fault, not hers. It was in the things we don't see of our culture and incidents she ain't involved in ways she don't live her life. That lesson is still being played out.
Yeah. Well, in particular, I'm talking about what you said. You brought up your brothers, and you said that people pointed guns at them, and they were taught to stand in front of danger, not run from danger. And so, I guess I'm asking for someone who may not be as strong. There could be some devastating consequences. To stand.
Oh, run.
Run, right? You want to tell somebody to run because, like, for some people they're not as strong, and for some people they're waiting for that moment to prove that they're strong, and then at times it may be the wrong moment. So, what do you say?
No. Do what your heart tells you to do. Don't listen to me. Believe that they're going to hurt you.
Because what I want to get across, or what I want to convey, is that not everybody's the same, and not everybody's built that way, right? And sometimes what God is conditioning in one person is not in the next person, right? It's something totally different because your strengths, my strengths, your weaknesses, my weaknesses are they're going to vary across the board. And so I'm listening to this story, and from the outside looking in, I'm like, should I stand up if somebody come at me with a gun? No, I know. As a matter of fact, I'm running. Like I have no inclement to say that I can challenge that gun. I have nothing inside of me that say be bold as a lion. You know what I mean? Be tough as a tiger. I have nothing inside of me. Everything in me say run.
No, but no, and that's why I tell people that like they don't get the learned behavior like we learned growing up. Because in our generation, there was fights too, like. But in those situations where that did happen, and I've seen this from my own family, where like this shaped part of my manhood. I'm a young man watching these situations, and I'm like, oh, like this is just reaffirming who I'm supposed to become as a man. Like so it's about identifying like the things and traits that made me the way I am, but not all of me is beneficial. Like there's pieces of me that I know is self-destructive, and I believe that is one of them, like, so I would never tell somebody else to follow down that path. I wouldn't even advise my brothers that had done that, but it happened. And in this generation now, like they want to shoot somebody. So I don't suggest you stand in front of that gun and dare them to do it.
Exactly, because for me, we're living in a generation that's lost, right? We're living in a generation that back in the day they used to teach you like, hey, stand up for yourself, use your fist, and nowadays people are picking up any and everything, and so I just kind of wanted to just kind of dig a little deeper into that. But I understand where you're coming from and what you're saying. You're saying I watch these things. I watch people in my family stand even when it didn't look like they should be standing, and it taught me to be the person I am today. And even then, even though, like you said, it doesn't say that it's not gonna, it can't end in bad consequences. But what you're saying is, this is how I was taught, and sometimes it work out and sometimes it doesn't. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I basically conveying that message to people to tell them like, you can't characterize like what makes a person, like everybody believes everybody's supposed to fit in this little unique box. But what happens if you would encounter a person like this? A person that's really going to stand up for whatever they believe is right, to the point of where it can cause them death. Like, that's what I thought in that moment. Like, this person is standing up to his moment where death is here. Where everybody else around him is panicked. He's not even panicking.
You know what I thought about?
And that taught me to quiet that panic. You quiet that panic with what you know to be true. And in that situation, like all situations that happen, I believe like God blessed them. Like I believe God's hand was on my family. Like I believe in prayer, and I believe them prayers probably was the only thing that saved them. But those events were meant to happen. Like they were meant to happen when they happened.
So crazy you talking, and I'm listening to you
but
talk.
Unfortunately, one day both of those brothers did get shot. So take that in mind.
Keep that in mind, right? I was thinking when you were saying like how strong people are and how strong people can be in a moment, and even when they're faced with danger and things that could play out totally wrong. I was thinking, what if we had that kind of boldness when it came to Christ? Before we go any deeper into this, the conversation about the man, but what if we had that kind of boldness where, for God I live and for God I die? Where will we be, society as a whole? But I know we're going to eventually get there, so let me get to the next question here for you. How do you think, so we've been talking about some of your experiences, right? Tell me about some of the experiences that have influenced and shaped America history.
A whole lot.
Yeah, and so
where do you want to start?
I think I want to start wherever you decide to start, because we're talking about the man and what's inside of your heart, unlocking the uncaged heart, because there's some stuff that I know that only you could bring out, a certain individuals only you could bring to the table, and quite frankly, I can't wait to hear.
Well, like my start of history in America would probably start when slavery started. And unfortunately, it's not when a lot of people believe it started. It started in 1502. And if they want to go check into that, there's a book called Ebony and Ivy that talks about it. That's when the first slaves were brought to South America. And they started like the colleges down there and stuff. And most of the Ivy League schools was involved in the slave trade back then. They were building colleges down there for the natives and Indians and stuff like that, and trying to re-educate them. And then, like that took off, and along the line, speeding through the story, like it happened where they eventually brought them up here, and even the Ivy League schools had them up here, right? And they only found out a lot of the medical practices they did because of the black cadaver bodies they had. The black dead bodies that they performed medical practice on is how America came up with most of its medical science body of knowledge that it has today. And that's how they found out so many things about our anatomy and examined it. But I bring up slavery because it's such a big thing, right? But if you're able to really go back and look at it and look at everything that happened, if anybody could have dominated another people that way, they would have, and they could have, and most did, even in Africa. Most people, they just never did it to where Americans were the first ones to ever did chattel slavery, where your kid was born into slavery. Like that was something different. That was something created by some dark minds that wanted to see their economy grow and boom. I'll put it in that form. But this thing has shaped us and put us into so many different dynamics and places that when we finally did come out of it, around the times that I was talking about earlier, around the times of W.E. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, like I speak on it because like they said W.E. Du Bois was mad at Booker T. Washington because Booker T. Washington did a speech, and in that speech he said, "Oh, when he was talking to the white people, he was trying to get money to start his own college." And he said, "Oh, we'll still do all the menial tasks. We'll still do the farm labor and clean your houses and cook and grow your crops and all of that." And W.E. Du Bois like, "No, we want equality and we want it now. We want to be in the same school. We want higher education. We want everything that y'all have now. You let us go and now give us the ability to get to highest levels just as you did." And my point of view is this, as it is with everything, you always need balance. You need both. You need people that grow up to the highest aspirations of their career in life and wherever they want to go. And you need those people who are happy doing manual labor. And that's where a lot of people don't realize, nowadays they tell everybody reach for these heights where some people won't make it regardless. So have them be okay with where they're at because they're still a part of our society. They're still a part of our structure. People thought farming was an out-of-date task until food and crop shortages come up, and they're like, man, how are we going to get food? Inflation's rising and all this. And then, you have this talented kid in your household, but yet you can't get him to a university where he can use his brains and become a doctor. We need both of these. And we need to know when and how to give it to these select individuals and nurture and grow them into their fullest potential and whatever they want to be, not what we want them to be, but whatever they want to be, or even help them find out what they want to be. And that's why I bring it up, those things shape us.
You have 1 minute remaining.
A lot of people have forgot about those people back in the day to where we came out of that, and this battle was still going on. But this battle is still being waged on a more minuscule level to the point where even now, what they just they put out the legal thing to stop the affirmative action and stuff. It's people always trying to fight against the betterment of you, but how are you going to fight back? This is what the history of this country has taught me. It's about those people who fight back. It's about those people who push and push and push and push until they break their way through the door. When those little kids first went into those integrated schools and they were getting spit on and yelled at and kicked at every day, and yet they still went. That is progression, but it's not a progression that a lot of people could take today.
Do you feel, so we talked about a lot, but do you feel these experiences, or those experiences brought people together or created further division? And if so, why? Because there's a lot of things that took place. I mean, there's people that was doing things, for the betterment. There's some people that were doing things that, they thought can be beneficial. Maybe it was to one group of people or whatnot. But there's a lot of things took place. A lot of things happened. But do you think, even the fight for what's right, do you think that brought us together as a whole, or do you think it further separated or caused division, and why?
I would have to answer both, right? I think the world is about balance, and I think it's balanced. I think the people that needed to be brought over that humanize us because we're humans, they come and they join with us in whatever fight we need to feel and be human. And I believe the people who want to be separatists and keep to themselves and hate us for no apparent reason, they can continue to hate us and waste the energy of their life hating somebody who's not even thinking about them.
Yeah. So you think that, in essence, it did a little bit of both. It shifted us closer together, and then it brought us farther apart. How did it bring us together?
How did it bring us together? Because if you notice, I mean, Minnesota, we're only as far as I know, black population is only 8% of Minnesota. But you could tell when George Floyd died, you've seen a lot of other cultures out there standing up for the right thing. That was beautiful. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to get to know those people because their heartfelt passion for our cause was unbiased, and it came from a pure place where they finally seen and understood, like, this is wrong, like, this is too much, this went too far.
Yeah.
Like, so how could it not have brought us together? Because I don't think even people within our own race knew, like, it would be that many people from different places, from different countries around the world that came to support what happened to a black man
So do you
in
think?
this day and age.
So do you think it's fair to say that pain, suffering, misery, chaos, happiness, joy, anything you think about, pretty much, can either do a great job of dividing or pulling us together? And even in our hard times, it's when we see people stick together the most. Like, you can have a conversation right now, you can be mad at somebody and call somebody to call somebody, and people be over here in a second just to be like, "What you need? I got your back." Or, where do we need to go? What do we need to fix? Like, a lot of times, it's in those hard times is when we find that people stick together. And I'm reminded, like, of the scripture that talks about how much we can actually do when we become on one accord. And that's true whether you're doing good or doing bad. How much damage can you do when you're on one accord with a group of people that want to do bad? And how much good can you do when you become on one accord with a group of people that want to do something positive?
Yeah, I think like suffering and pain and turmoil, until there is a problem, you can't think of a solution, right? So all those things in our past, like, we knew there were problems, we fought for the solution. Like, and the only thing that's wrong with today's age is they think complaining is going to fix the problem, whereas they're not looking for solutions most of the time. So I ask you this: if you're ever in a room full of people who are only talking about a problem and no solution ever comes up, be the person that talks about a solution to that problem, because that's the only way to fix it, with a solution, not the complaining and nagging about the same thing that's going on and on and on.
I think I want to dig a little. Say it again.
To figure out how you're going to fix it.
I think I want to dig just a little bit deeper than that, though, because, like, sometimes, what if you haven't been given the tools to respond correctly, right? So say that there's this big event that has taken place and there's a lot of people who are angry, and like you just said, there's some great things that could come out of suffering, right? There's some great things that could come out of pain if we respond the right way. I get angry enough to do the right thing. I get angry enough to fight for what's right, but fight in a manner that brings me what I need, whatever the case may be. But then there's a group of individuals or group of people that hasn't necessarily been taught. They know what they're feeling. They know that what they're feeling is not wrong, and they want to express themselves and they do things. But what about that group that hasn't been taught how to respond in a manner that get them what they need, but they only seem to make the situation worse? What about those folks? Because you have a mixture of people that say, "Hey, I'm going to fight. I'm going to do things the right way," and then you have a mixture within that mix of people who don't know how to, but I want to stand up for what's right. So I'm gonna do what I know how to do based on how I was taught. What do you do when you have all these people, all these different responses coming together?
Well, this is the thing about me, right? I got two different people inside my head when it comes to this, because I'm now for, like, a political correctness type of thing, and the other half of me is a revolutionary. So the political correctness in me would tell me, if you don't want to get into any trouble that can damage you and other people's lives, you go figure out how to do it the best way it's done. Whether you got to do it through litigation, bringing up this in legal court and suing them about it and figuring out how to solve the problem, or going up whatever chain of command you have to get this issue resolved, whether that's finding out how to set a protest or a demonstration and all of that. And the radical in me believes that those other people are needed too. Sometimes you need destructive people. When they don't want to listen to common sense, the only thing they listen to is chaos. When they know things will get out of control, if they didn't think that the chaos from George Floyd would have continued, I think that problem would have got washed over. That's my true belief. But when they seen how that started affecting the world, the chaos that consumed everything. That's what brought it so much light. Like, hold on, something's wrong here, but it's going horribly wrong. It's been horribly wrong. That was just a situation when everybody saw how destructive it could be. So a part of me believes both sides are needed, but it's also about doing things the right way too. Because I don't believe in damaging somebody's business that has nothing to do with the issue. You know?
Yeah, but so I guess where I'm going with this, right? We're talking about the past, and I know this with George Floyd is kind of current. So, and I know that we're using that example, but there's so many things that has happened in the past. Rodney King, Jim Crow. You have so many other incidents that we can use. But I guess where I'm going with this is, you don't believe in damaging people's business that has nothing to do with the issue, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean other people haven't been taught to do so. Like you said, if I believe that the hurt is going to continue, and I don't know how to really deal with it, but I know that I'm going to deal with it somehow. Who's to say how I'm dealing with it, be it right, if it's right or wrong? And so I'm saying, how do you respond? How do we respond to people who are just dealing with the hurt and dealing with it with to the best of their abilities and what they know? Because not everybody is equipped to deal with hurt. Even us, whether you be a Christian, whether you be whoever you are, not a lot of people are not equipped to deal with hurt and necessarily know how to carry it out the right way. And if we did, we wouldn't have so many broken relationships, so many hurt words that you can't take back, so many damaged buildings, so many damaged properties. People are hurt, and justly they should, as you should. Some of the things that people experienced in the past, you should be hurt. You should be hurt with all that stuff that's going on. I remember the first time I seen the beating of Rodney King on national TV. I was a kid, but when I looked at it, I knew it was wrong. I was hurt. There was nothing I can do. But there was other people that I saw in the streets that could do something that I couldn't do. And who's to say they were right or they were wrong? But again, like you said, when people feel that things are not going to happen and not going to change, they're going to keep going on with the hurt. But then there's some people that's going to continue to hurt whether things change or not. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the core issue of our hurt? Because it originated far beyond actions of folks. It started somewhere else, and that's where I want to get to, unlocking the caged heart. Where did this come from? And these are some additions, what society has placed on each and every one of us, by what societal norms are. And we're going to get into that in the next episode when we get into that, and because we're talking about understanding society and the past foundations that have built where we currently reside. But I guess my ultimate question is, how do you get people to respond to hurt and pain the right way? How do you teach that? Some people may say, you can't tell me how to deal with my hurt. But how do you convey that hurting people is not the answer? You know what I mean? You get what I'm going. Hurting other people ain't the answer, but making sure you stand up for what's right and making sure somebody understands what they've done or the harm that they caused. That's your end goal. That's what you're trying to accomplish. And by all means, protest. Do whatever you have to do, but in the end, hurting another person or a group of people, two wrongs don't make it right. So
No.
I'm going to let you on this note as we close out episode 1, and this is Unlocking the Caged Heart. We were talking about the past, present, future of a man. And right now we're currently talking about the past and what has shaped our identity and kind of just shaped who we have become. Any closing words on that portion before we jump into the next, before episode 2, when we're starting to talk about the past foundation and understanding society?
I'll leave you with this. This was a real incident that happened during those George Floyd protests. When I woke up the next day and I seen the city was burning, right? My own sense of whatever was going on with me said, I'm glad. My people didn't own none of them businesses. They didn't help us. They only took from us. They was self-serving businesses, right? They never gave back to my community. They just were in my community, right? And I wrote this whole narrative about justifying the actions of the city burning. And I told this girl, I called this black woman, I said, hey, post this for me. And she was like, I'm not posting that. I'm like, why not? Because she said, and this is what she told me. She was like, because they don't know the effect that they did on the people who live here. She said, I got to go get medicine for my grandmama. I got to get Pampers for my baby. I got to get food for my kids. I got to go get this and that. I got to do all of these things. And now I have to go beg my oppressors to get the things I need to survive. This was foolish. This was not a smart idea. And until man and woman balance each other, until this black woman balanced me, I never thought of all those things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I ask people to understand, like, where in you did that come from? Because those things came from me that justified those actions, because I believe my people had done them, and my people hadn't done them. Actually, it was supposed to be a alleged white supremacist guy who started the fires at first. But they call him, like, Umbrella Man or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but at the end of the day, I had to find the root in me that caused that mental response to justify my people's action, because in essence, I was doing the same thing that my oppressors had did for generations, justifying their actions of what they saw. Like, oh, well, if they didn't do this, this wouldn't be the response. But if I do the things they do, ain't I just like them?
Yeah, just repeating this cycle, right? Just repeating the same cycle, right? It was done to me. I'm doing it to other people, not even knowing it, but I have a right to feel this way. And so, and I'm sure we could talk about this particular incident all day, but and maybe one day we should open that discussion, because I think that's in the hearts and minds of a lot of people. How do I deal with this? You know, how do I deal with it from being a child of God? How do I deal
You
with it?
have 1 minute remaining.
How do I deal with it being an African American female? How do I deal with it as being a person that lives in society? How do I look at the person next to me? There's so many different things we could say and do, and I believe this is also related to how we've handled things in the past. So this is going to wrap up episode 1. Jonathan, I thank you as always, and I can't wait to look forward, and I look forward to episode 2, talking about the past foundations of understanding society and where we have come from. And eventually get to where we're going.
Yeah, we love you people. Shout out, reach out to us, all people, not just black people, all people. We want your comments and thoughts too. Talk to us.
And believe you me, this brother love for somebody to talk back, because he likes to be educated. He likes the wisdom. And again, iron sharpens iron, and we only can learn and grow from one another. So thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next time at the episode 2.